In both of your books, obviously the first book that you put out, Controversy Creates Cash, which did have the very traditional promo shot on the front that is typical of a wrestling book. In both of those books, you were very open about, both your entrepreneurial drive and the risks you've taken, and also some of those risks that haven't paid off. Especially in Grateful, you talk quite openly about several of the things that didn't go to plan. Obviously, so your business endeavors. Some of the time towards the latter part of TNA, your return to WWE in 2019. It was the WWE return, which I think was a bit that hooked me the most and really interested me, because I could completely relate to where you were in Wyoming and the life you were leading, kind of easing into retirement. And everything about it just was like, yes, that's how I want to be when I'm retiring. And then it pulls you back in, and for this brief kind of 4-month window, you are pulled back into the giant that is WWE. Do you think you needed that experience, though, to kind of bookend your time in wrestling? Do you look back at it now and are you happy you at least gave it a shot and it didn't work out? Or how do you land on that time?
No. Look, it was a gift. It was a blessing. It didn't. When I would say it didn't work out, it certainly didn't work out the way I had hoped or anticipated. I'm sure it didn't work out the way Vince McMahon had hoped or anticipated. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hired me in the first place. So we both had hopes and expectations that things would have been different and longer term and more productive, right? But here's my reality, and the farther I get from it, from that 2019 period, the more clarity I have about myself. Yeah. The situation was the situation. The situation here it was. I was, as I talked about in the book, financially, my back was up against the wall. And out of the blue, I get a phone call from one of my closest friends, Bruce Pritchard, who works for Vince McMahon at the time, and said, "Hey, Vince is interested in bringing you in. Are you interested in a conversation?" Well, I'm sitting on my deck with my wife and my dog in my beautiful home in Wyoming, feeling the walls kind of closing in around me financially. Mm. That was a big motivation, right? But an even bigger reason why I got so excited about the opportunity is because it was an opportunity for me to go back and be a part of something that was been a part of my life for 30 years at that point, and contribute and have a meaningful role and be back in that world that I'm so familiar with. So between the necessity of it and the homecoming aspect of it, yeah, and the opportunity to work with, I love Bruce Pritchard. He's one of, a handful of friends that I would trust my life with, my family's life with. Mm. It's a lot, right? He's one of the few. And so for me to have an opportunity to work with him again and to work with Vince, I thought, wow, this is great. This will be fun. And I was willing, literally, I'm not making this sound funny, pack up just enough of our stuff to put in a small U-Haul travel trailer, yeah, throw my dog in the back of the truck and drive 2,500 miles to start a new life at 60 some years old. Most people are winding down. Most people are moving the other way. They're leaving New York. They're leaving Connecticut. They're leaving a corporate life. They're leaving a high pressure job. And they finally are moving out to Cody, Wyoming so they can retire and catch fish.
Yeah, exactly.
Going the opposite way, right? But here's why I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Number one, I'm still friends with Bruce Pritchard, maybe even more so. I have friends now that I didn't have as a result of that brief 4-month period. We had some pretty good friends that I developed during that period of time. But the most valuable part for me is that it made me realize that entrepreneurial drive, even when it's jet fueled with a financial need and a shot in the arm for my ego. That's the homecoming part, right?
Yeah.
I get to go back in. I get to be a part of something. That's
Yeah.
ego. It's healthy ego. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's ego. It is what it is. So even despite the financial need and the ego gratification, it was never going to work for me because I've gotten too accustomed to other things that are actually more valuable to me than my ego and even money. That's going to sound strange to anybody that knows me, because I've been driven by making money my entire life. Since I was 9 years old, it's all been about making money. And I've made a lot of money and I've lost a lot of money. And I've loved the process of it all. That's an entrepreneur. That what I just described, my financial life. Throughout my life, I have been an entrepreneur, and I've been at the very top in my world, and I've been bouncing off the bottom.
Yeah,
I got it covered. I know what it all feels like, but I've also been able to really isolate the things that matter most to me. And living in Stamford, Connecticut, in a downtown environment, in a congested environment, and it's a beautiful city. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, I've been there. It's beautiful.
Very beautiful city. I was surrounded by some of the best restaurants I've ever stepped foot into in my entire life, anywhere in the whole world. It was a beautiful part of the city, surrounded by beautiful things and wonderful opportunities. But not for me. No. I can't go from, when I'm saying this, I'm literally looking out the window at the mountains outside of my window, and looking up into Yellowstone National Park, literally from my deck. I can't go from this to that and be at any kind of peace.
No.
I just couldn't do it. I wasn't as good as I'm capable of being when I'm that far outside of my comfort zone.